printed papers. Do you have a printer?
Yeah, right there.
Oh, I'm actually surprised you have a printer. You don't seem like a printer kind of guy.
I love printers.
Welcome into Scoop City. I'm the Athletic Senior NFL Insider, Dianna Russini.
And I'm Chase Daniel, played 14 years in the NFL.
Chase, it is that type of week where the cell phone is on at all hours of the night. I mean, this thing is plugged into the wall while I'm sleeping, and I set different alerts to different people, like different sources that I talk to in football to make different jingles. So I know, I gotta get up. Because here's the thing, it's kind of make or break right now with all these guys holding in and holding out. This is the week these things are going to heat up and pretty much get done. And we saw it. CeeDee Lamb. Done.
Boom.
New contract. We said that he would be back for week 1 against the Cleveland Browns. And of course, Jerry got it done. Giving
$100
him
million guaranteed.
Yeah. 4
That's a lot of money.
years, $136 million, $100 million guaranteed, a signing bonus. And look, they were creeping on this over the weekend. They were getting closer and closer and felt like they were just like about $1 million off. And then they were able to pretty much bring this thing home. So CeeDee's going to be back with the Cowboys this week to practice. And we talked about this last show, the importance of being out there and getting those practice
100%.
reps for the health of the player, for the chemistry, for all the things that you need to get ready for week 1. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how good of a player. You have to be out on the field. So we're going to continue to wait to see how this deal is going to affect the other wide receivers like Jamar Chase, who we know is back at practice. So we're going to talk about that in the What I'm Hearing section in just a few. But this is the time of year that I love because it is Sando season. All right. So this is an annual project. Every year, Mike pours so much work into this article where he goes around the league and talks to GMs and head coaches and player personnel guys and just gets their thoughts on the star quarterbacks in football right now and sets up the tiers. And this is one of those exercises that really becomes one of the biggest talking points in sports.
Points. Everyone's talking about it.
Everyone is talking
and
about it.
And we have him on our show, you're telling me?
Correct. He is our own. The Athletic's Mike Sando is joining the show. He's going to explain the tiers, explain what people were telling him. We're going to go through some of the quotes that he was able to collect because here's the thing, it's anonymous, right? So there's no names attached to the coaches, GMs, and the people that are giving him this information. So unfortunately, but fortunately, because as we know, people tend to give a little bit more insight, a little bit more honesty when their name isn't attached to it.
You know that better than anyone.
I know. So I can't wait to get Mike on the show to really break it down and see how this all came together. And finally, did you hear about the Chargers stuck in an elevator over the weekend?
Oh, worst nightmare. I hate that. I'm so claustrophobic.
It's one thing to be stuck in an elevator alone. It is another to be stuck in the elevator with over a dozen people on your team.
That are humongous human beings.
Correct. So I want to discuss that situation and perhaps maybe touch on who you'd actually want to be stuck with on an elevator.
Nobody.
Who you wouldn't. And of course, Jim Harbaugh's reactions to all this. They're classic Jim Harbaugh. But let's get to it. What I'm hearing around the league. So we told you here on Scoop City that CeeDee Lamb's deal would get done. And on Monday, complete. He's headed to Dallas to practice with the team. And he'll get in a good week and a half before he even has to be out there to face the Cleveland Browns. And Chase, what's so interesting about this is I just feel like if they went to the table early and said, just give us a little less than Justin Jefferson, he would have been out there 2 months ago. But here we are.
You make a clown show out of it. I don't get it. I don't understand. It's like Jerry Jones wants you to talk about the Cowboys at all times. His wish is our command. But it's just like, why didn't they just start with, hey, give me 34? And then, no, you go back to 34 and a half. Let's do 34 so you can practice. I don't get it.
And just for comparison, right? So Justin Jefferson signed a 4-year deal, $140 million, $110 million guaranteed. CeeDee, 4 years, $136 million, $100 million guaranteed. So that's exactly how it played out. It came just a little bit less than Justin Jefferson, right?
Less.
So look, Stephen Jones joined Scoop City. He sounded like he was determined to get this done, even though Chase, remember, he did kind of throw in a little wrench in it. when he was talking about the Houdini Act and acting as if, they weren't going to be able to figure all of these out. Well, guess what? One is off the board for them. And so now we'll see where things stand with Dak Prescott. In terms of the communication in regards to Dak's deal, I was told the talks are still going really well. It's not one of those situations where it's every hour, every day they're talking. It's every few days. But they both sides feel like this is moving in the right direction.
Is there a deadline?
No, there is no deadline for this right now. Nothing is set. So we will see if they are able to get this done, because I'm expecting over the next few days this to be really busy, because we're at that point where teams are going to want these players out on the field, and they're going to have to try to figure out, can we make this work, or we're going to push this to next season, and or the players are going to have to determine whether or not they're going to sit out.
Yeah, I mean, look, CeeDee is the entire Dallas Cowboys offense. Like, I pause there because I'm trying to think who else they have on offense, but it's just they've lost so many guys. Zeke is back, but he's not the same Zeke. That offensive line's a little banged up. I mean, CeeDee goes into a contract year, puts up enormous yards and enormous catches. I mean, just the targets. I think he had like 180 targets.
Yeah, he had the most ridiculous season of any Cowboy player ever.
And it's just, right? The thing is, and you see this, and I'm not saying this is CeeDee because I don't think this is who CeeDee is. You see this so often, and I've seen it personally in a lot of these locker rooms. Once these guys get paid, they sort of take a step back and phone it in. I don't think that's CeeDee. I don't think that's CeeDee at all. I think CeeDee here is super excited. I mean, we saw pictures on social media of him smiling, grinning.
Awesome.
$38 million signing bonus. Beat Justin Jefferson on that. Yeah. It's the highest other than any other quarterback in NFL history, which I think is awesome. But it just, I don't understand why it didn't get done sooner. Maybe CeeDee didn't want to be out at training camp, but at the end of the day, it's done and they're moving on.
I don't think I've ever told you this, but I have this weird hobby. It's a little bit of an obsession. I love watching players' workouts that they post on Instagram.
Oh,
I don't know what it is.
Are you serious? I hate that.
Most people do. I am fully aware
Work in
that it's
silence.
weird.
Work in silence. Everyone has their own photographers now and their own social media people. I'm like, just do the work, bro.
Derrick Henry got me hooked on it. Because
his workouts are actually pretty.
They're nuts. He puts like chains on his back and
James
runs
Harrison?
up hills.
James Harrison's workouts?
James, yes.
Out of this world.
I did a push-up contest against James Harrison.
Of course you did.
Guess who won?
James Harrison.
Yep. I tried, though. I was cheating.
How many did you get in?
I think I got him in like 25, but I was in television clothes doing it, like full hair and makeup, the whole thing on the floor.
That's interesting.
And I just was sweating a lot, but I tried. You know who else is going to try to get a deal done? Jamar Chase, right? So really good news. Best sight of the summer for the Bengals, because Jamar had been attending practice. He'd been doing the hold-in, going to meetings, doing a couple things on the side, throwing with Joe here and there. But on Sunday, he showed up and he went full. They had a light practice, but he was there as a full participant. Monday, showed up. Full participant.
Oh, hey.
So
he must have known that CeeDee was getting done. And he said, you know what? I'm next going to get done. So I better start working on my conditioning with these receivers. What's the latest? Yeah. Where's it going to fall? Is he going to be more than CeeDee, less than CeeDee? What's the deal?
I think he's going to be more than CeeDee Lamb. But I think
so CeeDee goes from 2, he's going to drop down to 3?
It's going to drop quick. But I think this situation's a little different, because let's just remind everybody, he has 2 years left on his deal. Right? So they could kick this can down the road like we saw Justin Jefferson do in Minnesota, right? Remember last year they came so close. I had tweets ready to go, Chase, last summer for the deal to be done. Like everyone was for Justin Jefferson. Gosh. I was ready to go.
Do you get the vibe of this on Jamar Chase, or you think it's going to get done? Surely they're not going to kick the can down the next season, are they?
I think they're going to try to work this out, but it's still on the table that they will do this later. But from the conversations I have in regards to this exact situation at this moment, they want to do it. So that's good. That's a good sign.
Is he going to eclipse Justin Jefferson?
I don't believe so. But it could happen. They find ways to work those funny numbers.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
There is a chance. So look, the fact that Jamar Chase is sitting here, he's at practice, he's going to be the next one up.
Surely it speeds up the conversation, right? Because the first thing that I thought when you tweeted it, and I retweeted your breaking news about CeeDee getting 4 years, $136 million. The first thing that came to my head was Ja'Marr Chase is next, like right away. How quickly? Like, are we moving? Is there a framework of the deal? Like all that stuff. Like it's got to be really close once. Surely he was just waiting on CeeDee to sign.
Correct. And I was told that had a lot to do with it, was to see where CeeDee would land. Now, I did have someone tweet at me and ask me, well, how does this affect Brandon Ayuk? It doesn't. It doesn't affect Brandon. Does Brandon Ayuk want to get more money? Absolutely. But we're talking different categories here in terms of money. And we'll see if that gets any closer, because there started to there was some reporting over the weekend that the Commanders have their eye.
It makes sense, though. Adam Peters, Jaden Daniels.
It makes all the sense in the world.
Is there a chance? Like, is that a team?
They don't have enough of the deal in place. They don't have the structure worked out. They don't have the contract structure. But that doesn't mean they're not interested, right? It's just so they're at a point right now.
There's a chance.
I feel like that should be the name of the show. So you're telling me there's a chance. So speaking of chance, we saw a lot of quarterbacks over the weekend wrap up the preseason here, trying to put their stamp on this thing and take shots here to show that they deserve to either be in the league, be backups. I know you consumed a lot of these games. You kept your eye on a lot of the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I want to rip through your biggest takeaways from this final preseason weekend of action, just starting with Trey Lance, right? We're talking so much about Dallas. We know that the Cowboys took a chance really here, took a flyer on trading for Trey Lance, and there was a lot of discussion during the time of that trade this time last year of, Jerry saw something in him that made him want to make this move. What did you see in Trey Lance's performance?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what Jerry. I mean, look, I don't know what Jerry saw enough to give up what they gave up for Trey Lance. Trey Lance was the number 3 overall pick, heralded coming out, didn't have a lot of starts in college, very inexperienced, knew that going in. And you got to give it to Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers to saying, hey, like, we got this wrong. We're washing our hands. We're eating the money, and we're trading, and we're getting some stuff back. And we got Brock Purdy rolling. We're good. And I watched.
Well, it took them a while to get there. By the way, just a little background on that.
They did.
It took them a while because I had reported that they were shopping Trey Lance last year, and the Niners were so mad that it got out. They were so mad because they still
You're just doing your job.
Maybe there was a little bit more there that maybe they could hold on to him and obviously try to get some more value. And then they got great value for the player.
Yeah. I mean, Trey Lance, get this, Dianna. Trey Lance led the league in preseason in passing yards with over 600 passing yards. And the next closest was like 450. He led the league in preseason in rushing yards as well. Okay? He had 5 interceptions this past game, though. He was 33 of 49, 330 yards, a touchdown, 5 interceptions, 11 carries, 90 rushing yards, 2 fumbles. So 7 turnover-worthy plays. That's been the biggest issue I've seen with Trey Lance this preseason. It's mind-boggling to me because he will look really, really good, like a stud quarterback on one drive, and the next drive, it is like so bad, like he doesn't know what he's doing, like he doesn't understand the offense. Take, for instance, these plays are 3 plays apart in a game, which I'm about to tell you. The first play, it's 3rd and 6. They're on the goal line, and he throws a really poor interception in the red zone. Like, throws it right to a safety. He gets off his first read. First of all, he starts on the wrong side. When I'm breaking it down, I'm like, he should have started on the other side, but he freaks out after his first read, scrambles, and throws it right to the safety. Interception, they don't get any points. That's like the number one thing for a quarterback is like, don't turn the ball over in the red zone. Turn the ball over in the red zone. 2 plays later, one of the coolest and sickest touchdown runs I've ever seen from a quarterback he had like 47-yard touchdown on the zone read option, and he outruns the entire defense. And I'm thinking, my God, like it is like
you were like, I see what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan saw.
100%.
You're like, I get it. This was the Trey Lance, okay? And then the last play.
And it's the thing that I don't understand with him. And the more I actually just purely study the film based on what I know from 14 years in the league, he doesn't have an answer after his number one read. And so when that is the issue, he sort of freaks out a little bit. He's unsure in the pocket of where to go. And that's his problem. But I'm telling you, there's some plays in this game, Dianna, against the Chargers, where he goes and he throws to his first read, and it's mind-boggling. So I'm going to ask you a
hard question. It's hard. So I need you to really put your thinking cap on.
Okay.
Is Trey Lance a good quarterback?
Gosh, that is like at times. I would say at times. I think he's an average quarterback. And I think, but the thing is, like I'll say average. I don't think he's horrible. There's definitely guys in the league that are way worse than him. But what I will say with Trey Lance is that his ceiling is extremely high. He is very gifted at throwing the football when he knows where to go. It's between the ears that he struggles with in the processing of the game. That's where I'll leave it.
Yeah, and we'll see how this plays out. Do you think Dallas winds up trying to trade him, or do you think they'll end up?
Look, I think Cooper Rush, without a doubt, will be the backup quarterback. Like Cooper went 5-1 in games, and look, I sent out a tweet yesterday. And I just was looking at the Zach Wilson situation in Denver. And I thought, hey, it's an intriguing option for the Dallas Cowboys. Like, I think Zach Wilson has played better than Cooper Rush. I know Cooper Rush went 5-1. I wouldn't mind sending Zach Wilson to replace Trey Lance in Dallas and learn and sit under Dak and see what happens because Dak's not signed. Like, I just think Trey Lance, because of what Dallas gave up, I think he's got to make the roster. I don't know if anyone's going to trade for him, though. That's a hard sell for me.
It is. But I like your theories. I still believe that Denver's going to want to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster. You know better than anyone how Sean likes to operate. And, 3 quarterbacks is a lot. 4 quarterbacks is too much, right? So the Cleveland Browns had that situation. Their backup quarterbacks had an opportunity after they decided not to play Deshaun Watson because he had some arm soreness. We thought we were going to see him in Seattle. He did not play. So you got a chance to check out some of the backup guys.
Yeah.
And look, every time I talk to you about Cleveland, because I spent some time there for a training camp, I came back not excited by Jameis Winston, but almost inspired by him at times, watching how he had really become a leader. I wouldn't say he was great on the field, but he definitely seems like somebody that's important on this Cleveland Browns team. So kind of just take me through these backups.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jameis Winston for me, and I told you when we had this conversation when you came back from the Browns, and you said it, and I've heard it too, is like Jameis Winston's the leader of the Browns. That's weird to me. That shouldn't be the case. Deshaun Watson should be the leader of the Browns. And you hear Jameis Winston in the huddle talking about, hey, he's going to go, remember that feeling when we were young and we used to go to CC's and eat those W's and get this stuff. I'm like, all right. Like, I get it. Like, I love Jameis. I think he's hilarious. It causes an issue and probably rubs some people the wrong way when you're overstepping your boundaries. Because as a backup quarterback, make no mistake about it, there's some boundaries there. Okay, so Jameis on the field has played well. He's technically the number 2 right now. You get DTR. DTR has looked excellent in preseason action. With that Kevin Stefanski, a wide zone offense and the wide zone play action stuff, he looks like he fits. He looks like he could be a backup in the NFL. And then you go to Tyler Huntley, who is their number 4. Tyler Huntley made the Pro Bowl. Let me just throw that out there. Snoop made the Pro Bowl, and he threw 3 touchdowns the last game. Like, I just wonder, and you tell me, I mean, maybe not you tell me, but like, what are your thoughts on the situation? Because in my opinion, I think that a version of these 3 guys might be a better version of this Kevin Stefanski's offense.
Wow, that's look, I think the way the Cleveland Browns are operating right now, over the next few hours, they're going to try to shop the quarterback that's going to get them the best in return here. It's just finding somebody that is going to do that, right? So is there a world where I see them trading Jameis Winston? Absolutely. As much as he's become a social media star for the Browns organization. You see him, he's on Twitter. Like you said, he's breaking down the huddles. You hear him and see him on the field. I don't think that matters. I think they know that DTR has had a really good camp, and has had a lot of comfort in Stefanski's offense, and we'll see about Tyler Huntley.
If they trade Jameis, what's your thought on who would be the backup?
DTR.
Like between those two, DTR.
Yeah, I would think DTR
Wow.
is going to get that job as the
That's
backup
awesome.
to Deshaun.
Good for
And look,
him.
the Deshaun saga really is bleeding into week 1 because here we are and we haven't seen him in a lot of live game action.
Stefanski said he was going to play in preseason last game. What happened with that? Why didn't he play?
Arm
He straight up
soreness.
told us he was playing.
He was sore
Arm
from
soreness?
throwing.
That's a cop-out.
Yeah, this whole situation has just been a little bizarre, but we'll see how it comes together. I don't get a sense that there's any panic or worry in the building. People I've talked to there, he's had some really good days. He's had some tough days, but they still have all the confidence that
We've talked
he
about
can-
it before, like Dianna, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but like I just was thinking about their roster straight up and down the line. They have one of the best rosters in the entire NFL. And what does it come down to in the NFL? The starting quarterback. So as the Browns go, it's going to be with Sean Watson.
Absolutely, but we know they do have the person on that roster, Myles Garrett, that is really become the face of that franchise. All right, so speaking of face of a franchise, I say Jacksonville Jags, you say Trevor Lawrence. We haven't talked about Trevor at all this summer.
No.
So you took some time to check him out. What'd you see from him?
He looked damn good. I mean, there's just like, what else do you want me to say? Like when you watch the film and you watch him in Atlanta, 2 touchdowns to Evan Ingram. They got Zay Jones. They got Gabe Davis. I mean, they are stacked at that receiver room and the running back room. And look, the Jags were 6-2. They were 6-2 at one point last year, and everyone was singing Trevor Lawrence's praises. I've been split on him at times. I think he makes some boneheaded mistakes, and I think he plays like he does against Atlanta in the preseason. I'm like, this guy's amazing. Like, he's worth $55 million. And so I think that's the issue right now in Jacksonville. It's like, hey, what does this offense look like with Doug Peterson, calling it? And it's just Press Taylor is there too. Like, is Press calling it? Is Doug Peterson calling it? Like, what's happening? I think that you're seeing Trevor Lawrence get healthy. And I think he's got the chip off the shoulder of certain quarterbacks that have to or feel like they need to get to that next contract and that next level. And now he can just sit back and play some ball. I was impressed with him.
Yeah, turnovers are the problem, right? So when you talk to defensive coordinators around the league about Trevor Lawrence, who is he? What is he? He'll be described as an athletic guy, great size, a good arm, not a great arm.
Not a great arm.
Just a good arm. But Doug Peterson calls the game to mitigate a lot of the issues, and he's going to continue to do that.
Yeah, I was with Doug for a year. He was awesome. Won a Super Bowl. I mean, Super Bowl winning coach. Like, he's got to get the best out of him.
What makes Doug so good? Because I've heard this before in Philly and in other places, that Doug has a unique way of connecting with quarterbacks. What does he do so well?
Just play the position. As soon as you play the position, like you automatically get like, hey. And as soon as you take Nick Foles and Carson Wentz in 2017 was going to be the MVP of the league. That was Doug Peterson's offense, okay, till he got hurt. Nick Foles, Super Bowl MVP, backup quarterback. Like, Doug Peterson can get quarterbacks playing there at a high level, and he's done a hell of a job going from Urban Meyer to now where they are at today. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a sneaky team. It's a small market, so a lot of people don't talk about them. I think they're going to be good.
Well, we're going to keep talking about the Jags because we are very intrigued by Trevor Lawrence. So we have the Athletic's very own Mike Sando coming up on the show in just a few minutes. He released his quarterback tier article where they essentially rank all the starting quarterbacks in football. And Trevor Lawrence, he dropped a bit here in these tiers. So I want to find out about that. I want to find out about Dak. He makes his 5th consecutive appearance in tier 2. Why can't Dak get up? Or why isn't he dropping?
Yeah,
depends on how you look at it, right? Too high, too low. Chase, thoughts? No, hold your thoughts, actually. We will discuss that when Mike Sando joins us next. Welcome back to Scoop City. So, Chase, over the weekend, I noticed the Starbucks fall drinks are coming back. I saw a pumpkin at the grocery store. I'm like,
a pumpkin already?
They're selling pumpkins.
No, they're not.
Yes, and I was thinking the whole time,
Jeez.
we didn't even get to Sando season yet, and these people are forcing Halloween and autumn on us because this is an annual event. It's on the NFL calendar. If you didn't know, the Athletics' Mike Sando joining us here. Mike, you released your article. Today's the big day. I can only imagine how much work, how many phone conversations and text messages that you had to do to get this exercise done. How long does this take for you to put together?
Yeah, I start after the draft because that's really when we know who's going to be on the teams, right, for quarterback. And we know, okay, Caleb Williams went here, so that probably means he's going to be the starter or whatnot. So you have to know who the set of quarterbacks are, right? And once we know that, I will start out with a list that's longer than what gets published. So, like, I'll have Jarrett Stidham in there, right, in case he's named the starter. You have to cover your bases because you can't get 40 voters in and then some quarterback is in here and I'm going back to try to talk to everybody again. That would be, that can happen. So I'll have like 35, 36 people in there to just have the bases covered. And then there's, I've been doing this 11 years, so there's certain people I know I can get. There's other people I know I probably need to go to the team to get, or there's, that sort of a thing, or there's certain people I can just text or email. And so I know it's going to get done. I always feel when I start, I'm at the bottom of this mountain and this is going to be impossible. Like, oh my gosh. And then usually after about a month in, I've got 30 of them done or something, and it starts rolling. And I kind of save to the end some of the guys I know for sure I can get, like, that I'm just on a frequent texting basis with, right? Not everybody's like that. You're going to go, sometimes you want to get a head coach or something because of their schedule. You may be going to the team or something like that.
Well, congratulations on getting this thing done. I want to lay this out.
Insane.
So those that haven't read it, go check it out on The Athletic. So the panel consisted of 7 GMs, 8 head coaches, 12 coordinators, 12 executives, 8 assistant coaches, and 3 involved in coaching analytics. Each voter placed veteran quarterbacks into 5 tiers. So that's the basis of this thing. From the best tier, which is 1, to the worst, which is 5. The survey doesn't count any rookie quarterbacks, so those Caleb Williams fans out there, sorry, you're going to have to wait till next year when we see which tier he will fall in. So before we dive in and ask you a million questions, because Chase is having a hard time even keeping his mouth closed right now.
I know. Let me talk.
I'm in for it, man. I got the
I'm sorry.
good stuff. I'll be,
I want to ask 2 questions before we go, before we get into this. How much does a contract impact a player's quarterback tier? So how much is the contract part of this?
None. None of that would take into account. They
Love it. Thank you.
No.
And then what defines each tier, Mike?
Yeah. So tier 1 would be the ability to carry your team consistently each week, probably not have a big hole in your game. And then the critical component in line is the guys in the league, this is where it's derived from. I didn't come up with this. This is me just talking to people in the league for years, is a good proficiency in handling the pure pass situations. We know how difficult it is to pass the ball when the defense knows you have to pass, right? And so
third down situations, third and goal, 2-minute scenarios, all that stuff.
Some of that type of stuff, or you get into a playoff game and the game sort of gets reduced to that at times. When we're in that situation, who's more afraid, our offensive coaches or their defensive coaches, right? When Tom Brady when Tom Brady's down 28-3, like, one of the voters is texting me going, right now Dan Quinn is very afraid because he's going to run out of coverages. I'm just telling you, this game's not over. Okay.
Oh my God.
Because that's the elite of a tier 1 quarterback. Now, he had to have other things and help to have it happen, but when Tom Brady had to drop back 60 times in a game, you're holding on defense. Yeah, you're going to get your shots on, but you're like, as a defensive caller, you're worried. And yet, for most of the quarterbacks, when you get in that situation, you got them right where they want them. And even some of these top quarterbacks, even some of these guys that are in the top 5 or 6, I'm sure we'll talk about Lamar Jackson. There were only 3 guys in tier 1 this year, which is the lowest in almost a decade. But
that's what I was going to ask. Like, lowest in a decade. You say carry your squad. I think of 5-ish guys. Why are there only 3 this year? What was your biggest takeaway from that?
Well, so as I was doing this, like I told you, in the first month, maybe I have 30 guys. done. Like Lamar was pretty solidly in tier 1 at that point. I thought he was going to make it because really the only thing that had held him back before was people felt like he hadn't shown the consistency as a passer that he did last year. But the way by the time I talked to everybody, it kind of evened out. He missed it by like 3 or 4 votes. So very close in that line. And some people almost bending the criteria, because when it got to be that type of game for them in Kansas City last year, against Kansas City last year, it looked a little bit like it's looked in a lot of those playoff games for him when the game's gotten reduced to that. And so that's been the tough thing for people to reconcile with him, because they certainly feel like he carries it as much as anybody. I mean, there's more on his shoulders just in a game than there are on most quarterbacks.
Well, and I want to read this quote, because we were going to get into Lamar Jackson first. That was my first takeaway. I'm like, how does a two-time MVP?
Well, just clarify here, right? So it goes Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow are in the first tier quarterbacks. So then the second tier begins.
The second tier begins, and it begins with Lamar Jackson. He just missed tier 1, like you said, but he had more top tier votes, 23, than he did the previous 3 combined, right? And here's a quote, and I think this is really telling. I just think putting an MVP of this league in tier 2 is being on some quarterback high horse of what we think it's supposed to look like. A voter who placed Jackson in tier 1 said, I agree. I don't understand. And that was the first, when I read your article at 4 a.m. Pacific, like I was up, I was like ready for it. I read through it. We got an early look at it. That was the first thing I tweeted about. And I quote tweeted The Athletic, like, how does a 2-time MVP make its way into tier 2? I don't get it.
And so I've asked, as we go through this, the criteria, like I said, is developed from talking to people in the league. I didn't make it up. But I said, hey, should that pure pass clause not be in there? And people go, no. It needs to be in there. That is a huge component. The game does get reduced to that. But I think he's the ultimate dilemma on that, because he should be tier 1 anyway, and he almost was. Where do you think that component comes in, and where do you think he is in handling it? Compared to Patrick or Mahomes or Burrow or Josh Allen.
I mean, look, and Mike, that's a great question. From a peer component, like, I agree with that voter who put him in tier 1. I think he should be in tier 1. Now, if they would have beaten Patrick Mahomes at home last year in the AFC Championship game, it sounds to me like some of the voters and peers or people you talk to, he would have been in tier 1.
Oh, and I think he would have sailed. I think he would have sailed.
Yeah. And that's been the biggest issue with Lamar Jackson, right? It is, hey, you look really good in the regular season. I actually think, Mike, just from a pure film standpoint, he had one of his better years last year throwing the football. It's just that can't get by Patrick Mahomes, and you're not going to get into that tier 1. But just because you can't get there should be a tier above tier 1 for Mahomes.
Yeah,
like he's in
zero.
Someone tier
said
0.
That.
Someone
said
that. Then so you have Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. He belongs in that next tier to me. And so it's just interesting to hear you say.
Yeah, it's not just, though, the falling short to Mahomes. That'd be everybody. I think if he even had a shootout game, and it was just like, hey, Lamar was 37 of 54 for 387 and 3 touchdowns. But you know what? Mahomes got him in the end. He'd be tier 1 easy. I think they're waiting for that moment in that spot.
I do think, Mike, that and I am conflicted too, because I do think, and I'll let Dianna get in after this, but I do think with Lamar, in terms to what you see on the field, it has to be. We have to take a step back and understand that the league has changed over the past 5 years from, hey, a drop back, really 6 years. Hey, I'm a drop back quarterback that stands still and throws it, whereas Lamar can beat you a lot of other ways. So you have to take into effect his feet and the way he moves the football, the yards per game he throws, like total yards per game, points per game. All that is a quarterback-driven stat. So I was just a little bit surprised with that.
Yeah, I'll just wrap up the Lamar discussion with I've yet to find a defensive coordinator going up against Lamar Jackson who wants to see Lamar Jackson, right? The honesty that I've had these coaches share with me over the years of doing these kind of rankings, off the record type conversations. Lamar is always consistently the guy that everyone is so fearful of just because of that athleticism and what we've seen him do with his legs. And now with Todd Monken in another year in his system, it could be the best version of Lamar we see. The best version of Trevor Lawrence, though. All right, so he fell 7 spots from last year, the biggest drop for any player from 2023. The gap between his salary and his tiers ranking is the largest in that direction for any players in tiers history. So he obviously cashed out, but he dropped a lot. What were you? What kind of information were you getting about Trevor Lawrence's game around the league?
So I feel like if I were to go through this and like change some of the rankings around myself, like to do my own ballot, I feel like he's a little low. I feel like that's a big drop. I get it. I think what's happening to him is a little bit.
Trevor Lawrence is 16, one behind Tua. I just want to make sure everyone understands if you haven't read the article yet.
And some people one of the interesting comments from more than one person, they're not saying these guys are the same, but there was a little bit of the same with Herbert too, where you have somebody who's acknowledged to be really talented, but for whatever reason hasn't had the team results that you think a top guy should have. And for both of these quarterbacks, you can explain that. I mean, Justin Herbert has had near a top 10 offense, and he's had a bottom 5 defense. Really, there's very few quarterbacks that are like winning consistently and going to championships with a bad defense. Mahomes is one of the few guys to ever really do it a few years ago. So I think with all these quarterbacks, like if enough time goes by when you don't get over the hump, like you come down a little bit. That started to happen just a tiny bit with Herbert. And I feel like, is it fair to knock Lawrence down 7 spots in a year when, hey, they were 8-3, and then the injuries piled up, and it's Jacksonville, right? How do you feel about that, Chase? Or do you feel like this guy hasn't really shown enough and he's right where he should be?
I think he's right. I told Dianna off record, and I'll say it on record. I thought that, well, I mean, I did, because I thought he should be lower. I didn't think he should be higher. In my opinion, watching him on film, I thought at times, and injury concerns happen with that, I thought at times he didn't look like a top 15 quarterback, if I'm being completely honest with you, rather than putting the team on your back. You look at the playmakers surrounding him, he has a lot, and he just hasn't been able to cross that line. Yes, he's making $55 million. I get that, which I don't think he should be making that, but I'm glad he is. Okay, I think that's a stretch. I think he's got a really good coaching staff. So in my opinion, I just think he's tapped out with everything surrounding him, if that makes sense. So I just don't know if I would have him so high.
And let me put myself on the spot here, because, okay, Sando, you think he should be a little higher? Okay, who are you putting him over? Like when you look at the guys that are above him, take the 5-6 guys above him, Tua, Jordan Love, Cousins, Purdy, Hurts, Goff, Dak. They've all done more. Yep. So he probably is about right where he should be.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of it just felt like a little bit more of a negative vibe, and we'll see. It's a big year for him.
All right, Mike, let's talk Brock Purdy. He rose 13 spots from 2023. He tied Jordan Love for the largest jump from last year. I honestly could debate calling Brock a 1. An offensive play caller said he is really underrated. Kyle Shanahan deserves a ton of credit, but there still has to be somebody at the switch. I personally believe Brock Purdy is a top 10 quarterback. Like, I just watch and I'm saying, yes, it's the system, but Brock Purdy is a guy who understands the system and he's making these throws consistently. Did you get a lot of leeway and a lot of, like, where did he go? I'm just so confused on Brock sometimes and what people think about him.
Well, you start off, number one, when you come into the league as a 7th-round pick, let's just face it. People have their priors on you, and there's a reason why you were picked so late. He didn't wow people with any of his workouts or any of that. So there's no one looking from afar going, wow, that's what it looks like, and that's what I want, right? There's no one who's going to say that. So that probably... Then you have Shanahan there, and it just plays into the idea that, oh my gosh, it's the greatest situation. Shoot, Jimmy Garoppolo, if you go on Pro Football Reference and look like at the all-time stat leaders for yards per attempt, Jimmy G's up there with all-time great quarterbacks, right? So people have a hard time separating that out. I think, though, what happens is if you have enough years of elite production, you kind of are what you are, and that's going to go up. So he last year, because he'd only had, I think, 7 starts or something going into last year. People sort of put him, he was right on the border of 3 and 4 last year, and people were like, oh my gosh, how could you have him so low? Well, people just wanted to see it. now they see it, and he shoots right up there into tier 2. I think he's right about where he belongs.
He's number 12 for everyone out there.
Number 12
that hasn't read.
So,
number 12.
Like, the interesting thing there is what happens. Are they going to pay him? And then what happens to your team? That becomes interesting.
That's all Dianna can answer that. He might be making $60 million a year when they get around to paying him.
If that one stat gets wrapped up here, you say you are what you are, unless you are going to be 41 years old and you tear your Achilles, right? Rodgers drops into tier 2 for the first time since you've
Number
been
7.
doing this. So, has he lost the confidence around the league from people believing that he's great?
I have a hard time believing there's just not some general Rodgers fatigue out there. I just have a hard time believing that. No one was really complaining about his antics and all this stuff. I just don't think it's probably helped him get the benefit of the doubt. That's just my own personal opinion. Because when Aaron Rodgers plays, he's almost always played at a super high level. I mean, you can't judge him on 4 snaps last year, right? You have to be projecting a little bit and say, okay, at this stage of his career, that's a bad sign. He's playing a whole season on turf. That was, if you go back to quarterback tiers last year, one of the quotes was, hey, this guy is going to be playing more games on turf at this age than he ever has. Look out for that. This could be an injury risk waiting to happen, not in 4 plays. But so how's he going to do it over the course of a whole year? Like, if you really had to bet your house on taking over-under of a number of games that he starts, where are you comfortable putting that? Right? It's probably not that high.
I think just based on the roster, he appears to be a player at a stage in his life that wants to end on a high note here. He's not trying to just walk away from this eventually in the shadows. He wants the attention and he wants to play at a high level. He still has this fire. So I just have a really hard time ever betting against Aaron Rodgers. But I do think it's interesting, though, that you did have someone say, I think Rodgers is at this stage as a 3. Like, dropped even another tier. Like,
he got 2 votes in tier 4, which is kind of like, we don't know. There's not enough information.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
no way. I'll there's some bulletin board material for him.
Yeah, I kind of felt this a little low for him, just on the respect factor of how long he's done it at an elite level.
Yeah, for sure. And it's MetLife. I mean, who doesn't get hurt in MetLife?
I'll ask you a couple more before you get out. What surprised you the most this year specifically?
Probably that Rodgers didn't get more of the benefit of the doubt. I mean, here we've got Burrow coming off multiple injuries, right? Burrow, for Burrow to get 43 of 50 tier 1 votes, I get it. I mean, I think he's a fantastic player.
Yeah.
But he has had a hard time staying on the field. And so we're going to now, with Rodgers, all of a sudden give him 20 fewer tier 1 votes because he had one injury. It wasn't like he was injured throughout the year. He had one kind of a one-off type of an injury. That surprises me a little bit. Like I said,
but you don't think, Mike, that did anyone reference? I want to hit on that because personally, watching, breaking it down, knowing what to expect normally of Aaron Rodgers, and seeing some. I mean, I was in the NFC North for 2 years, seen some amazing comeback wins against the Bears specifically. But do you think that the last part of his 2022 season, the last 6 or 7 games, I don't think he played very well. And quite honestly, that 2022 season as a whole was one of his worst stat years. Do you think that voters in their mind probably did they pay attention to that year at all, or was it just like 4 snaps, he's done?
I think it was a bad impression of that year. I think we could make the case that he was mentally probably not there as much as normal. I don't know, say he checked out, but it was a weird situation. Yeah. He had the thumb injury, a bunch of young guys around him, which, by the way, Jordan Love did great with young guys down the stretch. But Aaron's whole demeanor and attitude at the end there, to me, has to be a factor in how he performed. Don't you think? It just felt like it was over.
Yeah, I agree.
We just spent some time with Jordan Love, and he's leaned into all the fact that these guys are young together. Like the whole identity of that team just it appears to look really different than obviously it was with Aaron Rodgers being there. We loved all the quotes here because people say some funny things.
That makes the article.
And you were able to share things that people that cover football don't get to share that much. When we're having these kind of conversations. Yeah. So was there one that was what was the most entertaining one? Like, what was the one you went, oh, this is good, this is funny, or this is interesting?
Yeah, one of the Rodgers ones, and and I take care on these to try to be fair too. We can't just let somebody just rip somebody, but you try to have a little bit of an edge, and then I try to balance them out. Like if you're going to give a guy, then you better have something in there from someone else if you've got it, right? But I think the one on Rodgers was pretty good because I was talking to a guy late in the process, and I let him know what the results were, and he's like. Hey, are those guys putting Rodgers outside of tier one? Are they on the 29 teams that would be instantly better at quarterback if that guy was their guy? I was just like, whoa, that was just like a missile fired right there. I loved it.
Oh my
so
gosh,
good. All right, Mike, you guys.
We could keep you on forever, but we know you got to get out of here.
Well, let's come back and we can continue at any time. We can revisit it as we go along during the season and all that type of stuff. So
and I'd love to see who can move up. I'm more about the improvement. I want to see who's going to crawl up into that second tier, maybe even get into that first.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you so much. If you guys want to check it out, you can see it on The Athletic and pretty much on any sports media outlet because you pretty much have determined the news cycle and how it works for the next 7-8 days until we get some football action started in less than 2 weeks. So, Mike Sando, thank you so much for joining us. We will be right back. Back here on Scoop City. Chase, have you ever been stuck in an elevator?
Oh, gosh, no. Thank goodness. Fear unlocked. I'm claustrophobic. No.
Well, how about this? The Chargers, downtown Dallas, 15 people, including Justin Herbert, their franchise guy, were stuck in an elevator for 2 hours. Each person inside was assisted one by one through the elevator ceiling panel into an adjacent elevator, right? So 2 hours in an elevator with your teammates. Is that a nightmare or is that a dream for you?
Well, first of all, even if I was alone, that's a complete and utter nightmare. I'm claustrophobic. I hate that. I hate being hot. I heard there were shirts off in that elevator. But first of all, a lot of questions. First question, if there's 12 to 14 players on an elevator that are all 250 plus pounds, what's the weight limit on that elevator? Did they bring this upon themselves? And number two, who was at the bottom hoisting up these players through the roof? Like, that sounds pretty intense. I'm sure there's footage somewhere. Just need to talk to the hotel.
Yeah. I mean, remember Speed? They had footage back then.
Yes.
It was like early 90s, stuck in the elevator. And that
Speed
was just,
awesome.
Great movie. Great. One of my favorites.
It's a good movie.
There were just two people. Well, actually, no, wait. Remember when Keanu Reeves was and who's the other actor? The guy from Dumb and Dumber? I can't think of his name right now. Jeff Daniels. Hello. You should know that.
No S on my name.
I know. How they took out all those people in between the floors. That was different because they had to go. Oh no, they had to go up too. They had to go up onto the floor. Yeah. I love how I'm dramatizing the situation like there was a bomb going off. No, there was no bomb, but at the same time, the panic feeling. I'm wondering how many people's phones. Like I didn't see any Insta stories from this. I didn't see anyone do videos. I'm
Surely the
shocked.
phone wasn't working. Yeah, usually something gets out.
Yeah, I would have done a TikTok. I would have been very demure, very cutesy. Look at me stuck in an elevator.
Yeah, sweating, like armpit stains everywhere. My thing is like the hotel that they're at, they can't love this. Like bad look. That's probably why you haven't heard anything. It's probably one of those big hotel chains that's like, don't say anything. We'll give you the whole stay for free if you don't say anything.
So let me ask you, though. All right, so let's say it's you and I stuck in this elevator, right? At what minute do you start freaking out? Because, I mean, I would probably start 2 minutes in. Like, to go 2 hours?
Yeah. Well, I would go like minute 8, I feel like. And then I would go through the phases of like, all right, we're going to get out of here. Let me just try to open this thing up. Nope. Oh, God,
I mean, at that point, I'd say let's just do a show.
Total freak out. Total freak out mode. We'd get our camera out for sure, or our phone out for sure.
Well, you would tweet every minute. You'd give a minute by minute, which actually would be very interesting.
I think it'd be interesting. Yeah. It'd be like people want to know. Like, did you hear the Jim Harbaugh quotes?
I did. Can I read them to you just because
please,
they're so good?
No, please. I want everyone to hear them.
He said, I mean, it brought them closer together. I just missed it, being on that elevator. And it's like, I wish I could have just been there with the guys. I mean,
Justin Herbert was a real leader in this situation. Justin Herbert was probably just like, get me the hell out of here. Like, what are we doing?
I know they said he had no sweat on him. Like he had a shirt on. It was just because he was
right.
just so calm and collected and cool through the whole scenario.
I mean, and there's really no place to sit down. Like if there's 12 huge men on an elevator, you can't really sit down. So you're standing, your back's going to get tight, your core's got to engage. It's just.
I'm with you on it though. Why were there so many people on one elevator? I will purposely not get on an elevator if there's more than 4 people
I've been on elevators before with NFL linemen where it beeps and it won't close and some people have to get off. I'm like, why is that elevator not handling that? I mean, what's an elevator capacity? Like 5,000 pounds, 6,000 pounds? Like,
I think I gotta go dig on this. I'm gonna go find out how much total weight was in the elevator. If there's any social media team that is probably gonna find out and post about it, it's the Chargers because they're the best. But I feel like I am giving myself a good assignment for this week. So next show, let's hope that I can uncover how much weight was in that elevator. Because I wonder if they could stand on your pool, because you have one of those pool covers, right?
I do.
It's supposed to, like, the heaviest people on the planet could stand on it and it won't break.
5,000 pounds on that bad boy. I don't need some break.
Well, I don't know if there's 10,000 pounds of pressure on Russell Wilson, but Mike Tomlin refuses to name a starting quarterback. I'm going to head to Pittsburgh this week. Next episode, offensive coordinator Arthur Smith is joining Scoop City. I think by the time the episode drops on Friday, we're going to know who's technically starting. It
bet they know in
appears
the
to
building.
be. I've been asking. It appears to be Russell Wilson, but we will see when it becomes formal. And I just really want to hear from Arthur Smith on what this process has been like. The good days, the bad days, what that quarterback room is like. You've got a hodgepodge of personalities in there. What Russell Wilson is like at this moment after that nightmare of a situation in Denver. So we will see you guys at the end of the week. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We will see you guys next time.
Bye, guys. Tag me next time.
Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.